Yetunde's new life was smooth and cold and shining like a freshly waxed floor. The Victoria Island apartment had everything she had pressed her nose against windows to imagine. Marble countertops. A bed with a headboard that touched the ceiling. A bathroom with hot water that came from the tap without waiting, without boiling, without praying. A balcony that looked out over the kind of Lagos that looked back with respect. Her Instagram exploded. Every morning, she found a new angle of the apartment. A new dress from the wardrobe chief restocked each month, a new restaurant, a new experience. She posted everything. Living my best life. The upgrade was necessary. God did it. Comments poured in like a flood. She leveled up. Goals. Who is she? She used to sell Akara, look at her now. She changed her accent in her captions. She changed her accent in her videos. The O's and vowels were gone, carefully erased the way you erase a mistake. She spoke in smooth, unhurried tones now. Chief visited 3 times a week. He would stay a few hours, eat the meals she learned to prepare, watch his television programs, then leave. He did not stay the night often. He had a house. He had a wife. He had 4 children. She knew all of this. She did not ask questions. But one evening, as he was leaving, he turned at the door and said, almost casually, "Never discuss me publicly. Not on Instagram, not to friends, not anywhere. You understand?" She understood. She smiled and said yes. But something landed in her chest that evening and stayed there. While Yetunde was learning to pour champagne, Toby was learning dispatch routing software. He enrolled in evening classes 3 weeks after she left Logistics and Transport Management, a certificate program at a small institute in Yaba. He went after his conductor shift, still smelling of bus exhaust and passenger sweat, and sat in the front row with a notebook and a pen with no lid. He was older than most of the other students. He did not care. He was learning. That was all that mattered. It took him 4 months to finish the program. He applied for a dispatch assistant role at a logistics company in Apapa. They called him for an interview. He wore his best shirt, the one Yetunde had once said she liked. He arrived 30 minutes early. They hired someone else. He applied again. Different company. Same process. They hired someone else. He applied a 3rd time. On the phone call where they rejected him, he asked the human resources woman, very calmly, what he needed to do better. She paused, then told him. He thanked her. He wrote down everything she said. He spent 2 weeks doing exactly what she told him. He applied to a 4th company. They called him back for a 2nd interview. He sat very still in the plastic chair in that waiting room, hands on his knees, and he did not allow himself to think about anything except the questions they might ask. They offered him the job. He sat in his new small apartment that evening and stared at the offer letter until his eyes blurred. The party was in a duplex on a private estate, the kind with a gateman who checked your name against a list. Yetunde came with Mimi, wearing something Chief had bought specifically for the evening. The room was full of people who smelled expensive, who laughed at things without explaining why the things were funny, who touched each other's arms when they spoke to show they belonged to the same world. Chief was already there when they arrived. He greeted Yetunde with a nod across the room, the small nod of a man who did not want his greeting noticed too widely. She took a glass of champagne from a passing tray and smiled at strangers. Then she saw it. Chief was standing near the far wall, talking to a young woman. She could not have been more than 22. She was laughing at something he said, her hand touching his arm in that way. Chief was leaning slightly toward her, and his whole posture was different from how he stood near Yetunde, looser, more interested, like a man who was beginning to choose. Yetunde watched until she had seen enough. She turned away. She kept her face arranged correctly. She kept smiling. But her champagne tasted like nothing for the rest of the evening. She went home and checked her phone, and the first thing she saw was a blog notification. A gossip blog she had never heard of had run a short post, no names but clear enough description. Which real estate big man is keeping a village girl in 6 while wife shops in London? Her stomach turned to cold water. Toby was promoted 9 months after joining the logistics company. His manager called him into the office on a quiet Friday and said, without too much ceremony, that he was being moved from dispatch assistant to operations coordinator. New title, new pay, new responsibilities. His manager said, "You're the most consistent person on this floor." Consistency is underrated in this city. Toby went home and sat quietly. He did not call his mother immediately. He did not post anything. He just sat and felt the weight of the thing. The long weight of it, how many mornings, how many nights, how many rejected applications and empty evenings were built into that single sentence from his manager. He moved apartments 2 weeks later. Nothing dramatic, still a single room, but in a cleaner building, with a proper bathroom, with a window that let light in. He put his curtains up himself. He took out his phone and opened his photo gallery. He found the last photo of YETUNDE, a blurry picture from their first month in Mushin, both of them squinting at the camera in the sunlight. He held his finger over it for a moment. Then he deleted it. Not from anger. Not from bitterness. The way you remove a bandage when the skin underneath has finally healed. He put the phone in his pocket and started unpacking his new room. 3 days later, someone sent him a screenshot of a blog post about a real estate chief and his village mistress. He looked at it once, then set his phone face down on the table. That evening, Chief Adeyemi's wife found the apartment key in his jacket pocket. The scandal did not arrive loudly. It moved like smoke, first under doors, then through walls, then everywhere at once. Chief denied everything. When the blog posts multiplied, when someone with too much information started confirming details on Twitter, Chief held a brief statement through his company's communications team. He was photographed with his wife at a charity event. She stood beside him in ivory lace, smiling the smile of a woman who had made calculations. In the statement, his team referred to YETUNDE as a brand ambassador the company had been supporting for its social media campaigns. A brand ambassador. YETUNDE read those words sitting on the floor of the Victoria Island apartment, her back against the marble kitchen counter. Brand ambassador. She had been introduced to his children when they visited once, briefly, as a family friend. She had attended 3 private dinners as his associate. Now she was a brand ambassador. Her phone would not stop. Messages from people she barely knew, asking if she was okay, which meant they were watching, which meant they were entertained. Mimi sent a short voice note saying, "Don't post anything. Just go quiet." Then Chief called. She answered. "You understand how these things are," he said. Calm. Unmoved. Like they were discussing a weather forecast. The attention will die down. But for now, we should not be in contact. Before she could say anything, the call ended. She called back. It rang twice. Then the call stopped going through. He had blocked her number. She sat in the apartment for 3 days, hoping the phone would ring with a different number, Chief calling from somewhere else, an explanation, a plan. Nothing came. On the 4th day, a man in a suit arrived with a letter. He worked for Chief's property company, he said. He was sorry to inform her, he said. The apartment lease was registered under the company name. Due to a restructuring, he said. She had 7 days to vacate, he said. All of this delivered in the smooth, professional voice of someone who had done this before. When he left, YETUNDE stood in the apartment and looked at it. The marble countertops. The curtains that fell from ceiling to floor. The big television. None of it was hers. She had lived inside a beautiful room that had always belonged to someone else. She called Mimi. The phone rang and rang. She called again. Mimi answered on the 5th ring, sounding distracted. "YETUNDE, I told you, go quiet. I have my own issues right now. Talk later, okay?" She hung up. YETUNDE sat on the white sofa and opened Instagram, though she did not know why. Her thumb scrolled by itself. Past sponsored posts and food photos and motivational quotes. Then she stopped. A photo. A man in a suit, standing outside a corporate building, shaking hands with someone official-looking. He looked healthy. He looked confident. He looked like someone the city had treated well. The name tag on the corporate banner behind him read, Toby Adederan. Operations Coordinator, Primus Logistics. She sat with the phone in her lap for a long time. She called his number from memory. She had never deleted it. It rang 4 times. She was certain he would not answer. She was preparing for voicemail when the ringing stopped and there was silence, the particular silence of someone who has answered but is deciding whether to speak. Toby. Her voice came out wrong. Smaller than she intended. More silence. It's me. YETUNDE. I know, he said. His voice was different. Not angry. Just different. The conductor's voice, built for open roads, had gone quieter, polished by something. She started crying before she meant to. The words came in pieces. She had made a mistake. She had been foolish. She was sorry, genuinely, from a place she could not name except to say it felt like the floor of everything inside her. She was being removed from the apartment. She had nowhere to go. Toby listened. She could hear him breathing. When she finished, there was a long silence that felt like weather, like something was about to change in it. Then he asked one question. Just one. YETUNDE. His voice was even and low. If I was still in Mushin, still shouting Oshadi route on that bus, if nothing had changed for me, would you be calling me now? The question arrived like a door swinging open on an empty room. She opened her mouth. She had no answer that was kind. She had no answer that was true and also gentle. The silence between them grew long and full. Toby waited. She could not answer his question. She tried. She opened her mouth twice. Both times the words dissolved before they became sound. Because the honest answer was the one that condemned her, and she was not ready to say it, not even now, not even on the floor of her life. Toby let the silence sit between them like a judge. Then he spoke. I loved you, YETUNDE. I want you to know that, because I think you forgot it toward the end. Not the village version of love, the real kind. The kind that wakes up and works and counts coins and still chooses the same person the next morning. He breathed. I needed you at the foundation, not at the rooftop. The rooftop is easy. Anyone can love you when you are already built. Toby, I'm not angry. I want you to hear that also. I am not angry. His voice was steady. But what you are asking me for, I cannot give it. Not because I don't care. Because I finally understand what caring for myself looks like. Please. I have to go. I have a meeting. The line went quiet. YETUNDE stared at the phone in her hand for a long moment. Then she set it on the white marble floor beside her and pulled her knees to her chest. She sat like that for a while. When she finally stood up to begin packing, she noticed for the first time that her stomach felt strange. Had felt strange for 2 weeks, actually. She had put it aside. She put it aside again now. But it would not stay aside for much longer. The pregnancy test sat on the edge of a bathroom sink in a small guest house in Ilasamaja. YETUNDE had moved there with what she could carry: 2 bags, some clothes, her cracked phone, and a shame so heavy it changed the way she walked. The guest house room was smaller than the Victoria Island bathroom. She lay on the narrow bed at night and listened to the neighborhood breathe. She called Chief from a borrowed phone. He did not recognize the number. He answered. She said her name. The line went quiet for 3 seconds that felt like a verdict. I am not in a position to discuss anything with you, he said. Whatever you think you experienced, it was a professional arrangement. I suggest you move forward. I am pregnant, she said. The silence this time was different. That is your problem to manage, he said, very quietly. Do not contact me again. He ended the call. She sat on the edge of the guest house bed and looked at the floor. She thought of Mimi, who had stopped answering. She thought of the women from the parties, the ones who had complimented her dresses and called her beautiful. Not one of them had checked on her. The entire world she had entered had closed its door as smoothly and completely as it had opened. That evening, she opened Instagram one more time. Toby's page. A new post. A picture of him smiling, arm around a woman in a simple dress, both of them squinting in sunlight. Caption. She said yes. The photo had 9,000 likes. YETUNDE put the phone face down on the pillow and did not cry. She had nothing left for crying. Toby had proposed on a Sunday afternoon in a small restaurant in Yaba, the kind that does not take reservations, the kind with plastic chairs and good food and a ceiling fan that always worked. Her name was Adiz. She worked in the operations department, 2 floors above him, and she had started talking to him 8 months ago about a logistics problem that needed solving. The conversation about the logistics problem lasted an hour. Then they talked about other things. Then they kept talking. She was not from Lagos. Her accent was thick Delta, every vowel full and proud, the way river water is full. She never apologized for it. She never lowered it. When she spoke in meetings, she spoke with her whole voice. It was, strangely, the first thing Toby noticed. He put a ring on her finger over jollof rice and a small chocolate cake the restaurant owner had agreed to keep in the kitchen until he gave the signal. Adiz cried happy tears and said yes before he could finish the question. Someone at the next table took a photo and posted it. That was the post YETUNDE had seen. Across Lagos that same evening, in a guest house in Ilasamaja, a woman who had once mocked a man's voice was watching the video of his proposal on a cracked phone screen, watching it once, then again, then a third time. Watching Adiz's accent, so similar to the one YETUNDE had worked for months to erase, announced in joy across the room. And Toby was smiling. Smiling like a man who had arrived at something true. For years moved the way time moves when life is hard, not fast, not slow, but steadily, like a river that does not care where it is going. YETUNDE now ran a small food stand near a busy junction in Ojota. Rice, beans, plantain, whatever the day's budget allowed her to prepare. Emmanuel, her son, was 3 years old and had his father's eyes and her Osun nose and a way of watching strangers that was older than his face. She tied him to her back on busy days. He slept there while she served. Customers called her Mama Emmanuel and she answered to it. It was not a bad life. It was not the life she had imagined. But it was hers fully, cleanly, completely hers. No key handed to her by someone else. No name she had erased. No voice she had to perform. One Saturday morning, a Range Rover stopped near her junction. New model. Engine quiet. YETUNDE did not look up immediately. She was packing rice into a container. Then she heard the door close. She looked. Toby stepped out. He was wearing a simple shirt and dark trousers, the way a man dresses when he is comfortable enough not to try too hard. He looked well. He looked rested. He looked like a man who had slept peacefully for several years. Their eyes met across the distance. He saw her. She knew he saw her. His face showed recognition, and something else, something soft and sad, the way people look at old photographs of houses that burned down. He nodded once. Politely. Completely. Then he walked past. Emmanuel's small voice came from her back. Mama, who is that man? She adjusted her wrapper. She breathed. Someone I used to know, she said softly. That evening, YETUNDE sat Emmanuel on her lap outside their small room. The evening was cooling. Neighbors moved in the corridor. A radio played somewhere. Emmanuel was eating from a small bowl, asking questions the way 3-year-olds ask questions, constantly, completely, without apology. Mama, why is that man rich? She thought about the question seriously, the way it deserved. Because he worked when it was hard, she said finally. And he did not stop when it hurt. Emmanuel accepted this. He chewed his food. Mama, do you have accent? She laughed. The sound surprised her, real and round and unguarded. She had not laughed like that in a long time. Yes, she said. I have accent. Big one. From Osun State, where your grandmother lives. Is that bad? She pulled him closer. She thought of Mimi. She thought of the speech coach and the mirror and the hours of practice erasing herself. She thought of the moment she told Toby he sounded too much like a conductor. She thought of what that cost her. No, she said. It is not bad. It is where you come from. And where you come from is the first thing you must never be ashamed of. Emmanuel finished his food. He leaned his small head against her chest. She spoke quietly into the Ojota evening, half to him, half to the girl she used to be. The accent you are ashamed of is the voice that was going to announce your story. The loyalty you abandon at the foundation becomes the regret that waits for you at the rooftop. And the person you leave when they have nothing, they will be celebrating with someone else when they have everything. She held her son. She let the evening hold her.
Thanks for watching the final episode. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.